Hey, what's up? It's Ben Greenfield, and you would laugh if you saw me right now. No, you'd probably run away in sheer horror. I'm sitting on one of these saddle chairs. I have these really cool, ergonomically favorable saddle chairs in my office, and I'm sitting spread-legged on my saddle chair, naked, with a giant infrared light blasting my sack. That is just what I'm doing while I'm recording for you. So if you hear a hum or a buzz in the background, that's why. If you have no clue why the heck I would do something like that, just go to my website and do a search for infrared therapy. Go to bengreenfieldfitness.com and search for that. It's a cool little technique if you're trying to increase testosterone or have a baby or something like that. I'm not trying to have a baby. I am trying to increase testosterone. Anyways, though, this podcast is about a bearded, badass biohacking beast and his best secrets. Notice that alliteration I did there? For muscle and sleep and recovery and more. It's my buddy Anthony DiClementi. He's pretty cool. You'll like him. And this podcast is brought to you by, among other things, a really cool website. I have a friend named Emily Fletcher, and she's like the best meditation teacher, in my opinion, on the face of the planet. She's got like the perfect voice. She has the perfect approach. She understands that meditation needs to be doable and be able to be performed anywhere in the world. And if you've never tried meditation before, or if you're looking for a new form of meditation, you're going to find her form of meditation called Ziva, Z-I-V-A, effortless and enjoyable. She specializes in meditation for sex, meditation for the brain, meditation for throwing your Xanax away and kissing your jet lag goodbye and fixing insomnia. She's really, really good at this. And she has this program that takes 35 minutes a day. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's for 8 days, 20 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. Boom. That's it. You can do that. You can totally do that. You might not be able to watch Game of Thrones or Black Mirrors or whatever else you're watching on Netflix. For me, that would be Shark Tank or Master Chef. But either way, you get to save $51 on her complete program. Here's how. Go to zivamind.com/BG. Simple. Z-I-V-A mind.com/BG to save $51 instantly. How cool is that? This podcast is also brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Yeah, both my sponsors start with a Z. I did that. No, I didn't do that on purpose, but I'm just into alliteration. What can I say? Second time I've said that word today. ZipRecruiter. If you're in need of great talent for your business, but you're short on time, you don't want to get lost in a big stack of resumes to find your perfect hire. You don't want to be like spending all your time clicking around on LinkedIn. ZipRecruiter lets you post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with one click. So you can rest easy, knowing your job is being seen by the right people and not all these unqualified candidates who should be flipping burgers instead. They have this smart matching technology that notifies the qualified candidates about your job, literally within minutes, so you get the best possible matches. 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate through the site in one day. And that's why they call it the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. You can now post jobs for free on ZipRecruiter. Free. You just go to ziprecruiter.com/green, just like it sounds. ziprecruiter.com/green. Can't spell recruiter? You're screwed. ZipRecruiter.com/green. You can figure out how to spell recruiter. RECRUITER, I believe. Recruiter. Spelling bee. Trophy, please. All right, let's go talk to Anthony. In this episode of the Ben Greenfield Fitness Show.
Too much intracellular calcium, it's a free radical. It oxidizes the cell. It can drive down mitochondrial function and actually jack up the surface of the cell as well, so you're not getting proper toxin and nutrient exchange. And the molecular hydrogen mitigates some of those effects. Do you have a hidden infection? Are you dealing with parasites or Epstein Barr or Lyme or candida, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? Are you dealing with mitochondrial dysfunction? Are there other things that should be addressed, and then giving them specific supplements based on what they may be dealing with?
He's an expert in human performance and nutrition. Voted America's top personal trainer and one of the globe's most influential people in health and fitness. His show provides you with everything you need to optimize physical and mental performance. He is Ben Greenfield.
power, speed, mobility, balance. Whatever it is for you, that's the natural movement. Get out there. When you look at all the studies done, studies that have shown the greatest efficacy.
All the information you need in one place, right here, right now, on the Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast.
Hey folks, it's Ben Greenfield, and I first got a chance to hang out with today's podcast guest when I was in Finland last year. I went to this thing called an offsite after the Biohackers Summit in Helsinki, Finland. And this involved trekking through the snow out in the wilderness, hours and hours, a long train ride outside of Helsinki, and then camping in these giant army tents out in the snow in the forest. And two things are quite memorable from that particular experience. Number one was that it was really interesting to see biohackers trying to survive in the wilderness who could not start a fire, camp, or sleep on cold ground. It got me thinking just a little bit about how important it is to kind of have that marriage of ancestral wisdom and know-how, and also a touch of modern science, but not just the modern science. And number two, I met this really cool cat who, as we were walking back to a farm after the camping experience there in Finland, we started talking, and this guy was just like this never-ending well of knowledge on everything from like sleep strategies to fringe strength training methods to stem cells to this amazing wealth of knowledge that I really loved to be able to tap into for the rest of that trip. And his name is Anthony DiClementi, and later Anthony sent me his book. He actually wrote this book about biohacking secrets. It's like this handbook. You know, if you've read my book, Beyond Training, then this is kind of similar, right? Like it's like hundreds of pages, just like jam packed with all these tools and tricks and tactics and techniques and things that I really didn't even know about. But he sent me that book, and finally I was like, all right, I gotta get this cat on the show. So his name is Anthony DiClementi. That's DiClemeti. And you can access today's show notes over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/biohacking secrets, which is the name of Anthony's website and Anthony's book. Anthony, it's good to see you, and I'm pleased to see, since you and I are on video right now, that you still have your enormous badass beard that you had back when we were in Finland.
It's good to see you too, brother. And yes, I'm definitely due for a trim and a cut of all types.
I thought maybe you just grew that bad boy to keep your face warm or something out there in the Helsinki snow.
Yeah, it was something that started with just a little bit of laziness, and then I ended up liking it, so I kept it.
Yeah, and honestly, just opening the kimono for folks, Anthony and I have had to reschedule this podcast a couple of times, and the last time we were almost ready to record. And something went down crazy with your girlfriend, and you told me when it happened that you thought it would be interesting for my audience to kind of hear about, as a way of learning a little bit more about the kind of things that you deal with and the kind of things that you do. So can you fill me in on why you had to reschedule last time?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we were in the process of moving from Chicago down to either Florida or California. And part of the reason was because we just wanted more sunlight and access to the beach. And we wanted to get out of a huge metropolitan city with 8 million people. And one of the other reasons was because we'd realized the place that we were living in, a Chicago high-rise, was far from ideal in terms of unfavorable electromagnetic fields. This was something that I was clearly being affected by a little bit, but when my girlfriend moved in with me, she was waking up with chest pain and headaches and was more tired than she'd ever been. And she's, 24 years old, had never had a health problem in her life. And all of a sudden she's waking up with chest pain and finding it hard to drag herself out of bed. So when we were looking at places in Florida, we'd kind of narrowed it down from California to Florida for a wide variety of reasons. And we ended up making a pretty catastrophic error. And, when you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, because the problem in Chicago had been that we were like right next to someone who had their high-powered Wi-Fi router where we were sleeping, basically on the other side of a shared wall. So when we were checking out places, that's all I was looking for. I wasn't checking for different types of EMFs, whether they're, we're talking wireless, whether we're talking electric or magnetic. And we moved into a place and we got there and we thought that all of our challenges had been solved. And when we arrived, it turned out we were right next to the transformer for the entire building. All of the cables for this huge apartment complex were running underneath our floor. I'd been excited because I got us a ground floor loft, and I was thinking about a closer connection to the Earth's field rather than being on top of all the electricity for the entire place. And after our first night there, we went out, we had a nice dinner and celebrated. And the next morning, I looked at my girlfriend. I was like, "How do you feel?" Fully anticipating her to be like, "I feel wonderful." And she looked at me with like tears in her eyes, and she's like, "My chest is killing me." She's like, "Something's wrong." And there'd been, a whole bunch of times in here where we'd gone camping, it had gone away, or we'd traveled and got outside of that environment, and her issues had gone away within 24 hours. So we'd linked it to EMFs and to the environment.
What do you do about that? You being a guy who's written a book where I know that you talk about EMF, and people listening in who may be surrounded by a lot of Wi-Fi signals, what's the trick?
Yeah, so we ended up making sure that the next place we got was a single family home. We brought on an EMF consultant to make sure that he was looking for anything that I had possibly missed. I have a Cornet tri-mode meter, so I started looking for all different types of fields, which include the wireless, which is like your Wi-Fi routers and cell phones and cell towers. I was looking at the wiring of places because there's a lot of older homes that have bad electrical wiring and can create fields of their own. And then, magnetic, which can come from power lines. And coincidentally, the place that we'd originally moved to in Florida that we were out of within 2 weeks it was pretty bad in all three of those areas. So we got ourselves a single family home. We switched our Wi-Fi router to old school Ethernet, plugging in directly. And we're just a little bit more conscious about how we use tech. I'm still on tech all day. I just do it a little differently now.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about this idea that, especially when it comes to the high frequencies from things like cell phones, that pulsed electromagnetic fields can actually help to repair some of the cellular damage that can occur from a lot of exposure to non-native EMF, meaning like what are called PEMF devices. Oddly enough, I happen to be wearing one on my butt right now because I pulled my hamstring doing single leg deadlifts yesterday. But I'm curious if you used anything, not only to remove yourself from the exposure, but also to repair some of the damage.
I have I have a number of PEMF devices. One of my favorites is the OndaMed machine. And I was actually getting ready to do a short session of that, and then realized I didn't have quite enough time before you and I got on here to hang out. But I'll probably do it a little bit later this afternoon.
You just got to get a portable one you can wear on your butt like me.
Yeah. Are you using the Flex Pulse?
It's called, I have one called the Flex Pulse. And for those of you listening in, this is just a form of electromagnetic frequency that is more healing to the body rather than excessively stimulating or powerful like a cell phone. No, what I have on my butt is something I'm actually trialing right now. I believe it's called the OmniFlex, something like that. Anyways, once I finish trialing it and I know if it's efficacious, I'll let folks know on my Facebook page or on the podcast. What's the OndaMed?
Yeah, so the OndaMed is it's a pulsed electromagnetic field device that has been used for a few decades now in the treatment of chronic illnesses, for anti-aging benefits, performance optimization, and everything in between. There's a number of people that have them. I don't remember where I first found out about it, but I probably tried 15 different machines before I invested in this one. And the first week I used it for an hour a day, every day. And you use like autonomic response testing or basically like you're checking your pulse to see which frequencies your body responds to. And when you feel a stronger pulse, that's one of the programs that you want to run. So for a week, I ran the programs that my body had responded to.
What do you mean when you feel a stronger pulse?
Yeah. So the way that you do it is like, let's say if I were checking you, I would, and Sylvia Binder is, she's one of the founders behind it. Her husband, Rolf, was the innovator that created it. But one of the first things that you do, and what really brings a personalized component to the OndaMed that I love, is you put there's 3 different applicators. One goes around your neck. One is like a long applicator pad that can go on the chest, kind of like, where the chakras, so to speak, would exist, or it can go along the spine and really stimulate the CNS. And then you have a hand wand that can go to different locations wherever treatment is needed. And you put the neck applicator on the individual, and then you scroll from through the different settings. There's about 160 of these programs, and you're feeling the pulse of the individual who's wearing the applicator around their neck. And you can actually feel a stronger pulse on certain frequencies, on certain programs. And in doing that, you just make a little note that is a program that this individual.
So you're not talking about like heart rate pulse. You're talking about the actual pulse from the machine.
No, the pulse of the heart rate. You're feeling the individual's wrist. And when you feel a stronger pulse coming from their heart, you make a note of that program that initiated it. And then that's what you want to run. So I did this for a week, 1 hour a day. And I was able to, I was never a flexible guy. Like gym class, sit and reach, I could like barely touch the board. And after a week, I could almost do the splits for the first time in my life as like a 34-year-old man.
Wow, that's really cool. I'll hunt that down. Is there the best place to get it, or is it just the OndaMed website?
Yeah, I'll connect you with the owner, Sylvia.
Okay.
She's fantastic. And she's, you'll want to do an hour or so of training with her. She makes something that could be really complex, quite simple.
Oh, so listeners couldn't just like buy this for their house?
They can, but they would also probably want to do an hour of training. You could learn it. They have a short user guide that's very helpful, but doing an hour with Sylvia and being able to ask questions, they're phenomenal about helping out people who invest in their technology. And they have a mission to change the world, and they realize how important it is for people to actually know how to use their device in order for that to happen.
Okay, cool. Got it. Well, yeah, hook me up, and then I'll put some links in the show notes for people over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/biohacking secrets. I want to delve into some of your biohacking secrets. But before we do, I know that you had kind of a journey, I believe, with, was it Lyme, if I remember right, that kind of got you into all this in the first place?
Yeah, Lyme was the diagnosis that makes the story simple to tell. But around 2011, I went from being this guy who was always in decent shape. I played pretty competitive sports all my life. In my senior year of college, our club team won the national championship. And in 2011, I almost out of nowhere couldn't get out of bed. And my entire body ached. I had the testosterone of like a 75-year-old man, the memory of a goldfish, and things were just falling apart. I started isolating myself. I tried to get more strict with my diet and exercise harder. So I would go do a CrossFit workout that I could do, but then I was, exercise intolerance. I was out of commission for, 24 to 48 hours. And it was that really made me realize that my model of what were the primary drivers of human health at the time, me thinking diet and exercise, like many people still believe, I realized it was a flawed paradigm, and I had to start looking in uncommon places for answers. And, after 11 doctors, the 11th doctor in 12 months, I'm sitting in the office with my mom, which like probably only the Italian people listening think is normal. Everybody else realizing a 29-year-old man going to the doctor with his mom is in pretty bad shape. And when the doctor came out and said the same 5 words I'd heard like before, that there's nothing wrong with you, I was like, this is on me. I'm like, no one's gonna be able to figure this out in 13 to 16 minutes, which is, about how long these appointments were. Mm-hmm. And my health, my well-being, and my future is my responsibility. I got to figure out what is the truth and really what moves the needle, because I can't get much more strict with my diet. I can't be any more paleo. I can't be any more keto. I can't work out any harder. There has to be more.
So at that point, you just started basically. I'm just curious, like what you did for Lyme specifically. I get a lot of questions from people about Lyme, so I'm kind of curious if you have a few tips you could throw out about specifically tactics that you use to heal yourself.
Anyone here who's listening that suspects Lyme, I would encourage them to do a minimum 1 week, but ideally 2 weeks of zero EMFs. Not to sound redundant, but I really do believe that this is one of the most pernicious underlying health issues affecting people. And few individuals who are impacted by it have any idea that this is the driver. So I have something inside our membership community called like the 7-day Biohacker Circadian Reset or something like that. And it basically involves going camping and, you're unplugging from your devices. You're getting away from Wi-Fi routers. You're getting away from being on your phone 24/7 and having your laptop on your lap all the time. And in doing that, in not only separating ourselves from the non-biocompatible frequencies that can throw our body off and reconnecting with, getting our shoes off and stuff that you and I were doing in Helsinki and getting in natural bodies of water, those sorts of things. After a week to ideally 2 weeks of that, you will have much more clarity on how many symptoms you are experiencing are actually due to an infection versus your environment.
Really? So I think a lot of doctors would laugh at that. Like they would honestly think that you're crazy to suggest that an actual infection, like a tick-borne infection or a tick-spread infection or something that's affecting the cells like Lyme would actually be more related to EMF than the actual infection or cellular damage itself. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that's where we're at right now. And I think a lot of doctors back in 1950 who may have heard that, if you told the doctor back then that cigarettes were bad, they probably would have laughed as well. And now it's kind of like it's common knowledge and it's obvious. And it will be there with these electromagnetic frequencies in the next 10 to 20 years.
What about any other supplements or dietary strategies or things like that you did to actually kill the infection?
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that you're taking steps to kill the infection. Actually, like as we're talking, my dad is here with us in Florida because he was diagnosed with Parkinson's a few years ago, and up in Chicago, it's a less than ideal environment, both in terms of like sun exposure and everything else. So we brought him down here, and he's got a light actually underneath his tongue called the TheraLumen that uses certain light frequencies to kill pathogens in the blood. And that's a device that's been used by a number of other Lyme clinics, some of the same clinics that that people go to and stay for weeks or months on end, depending on how severe their case is.
And what's it called again?
It's called the TheraLumen. It's actually
TheraLumen.
That specific device is the company's pivoting to they've released something called the Spectra Mini. So there was a study in December of 2016. I'm sure you saw it, where they reversed Alzheimer's in rats, 50%.
Was that the one where they used like a 40 hertz frequency on the head, or like a photobiomodulation kind of thing? Exactly.
So David High, who's one of the innovators behind Millennial Health Systems and Eden's Pulse, he saw that study and they immediately made a human version of the device that has both a PEMF pad and a light setting or a light applicator that you could either put behind the head to stimulate the optic nerve that way, or you could actually look at the light the way that it was done in the study for the rats. But what they did is they took these rats with Alzheimer's, and in using this 40 hertz frequency, they were able to get a 50% reduction in beta amyloid plaque, which is like one of the main indicators of Alzheimer's, and they did it in a matter of days.
Wow. How is this different than the one that I own? So I have this Violite. It's the Violite. Well, mine is the Violite Neuro, and it's the Alpha. It creates a 10 hertz frequency for alpha brainwave focus. It's one that you wear on your head, but they also make one called a Gamma. That's a 40 hertz. That's designed for Alzheimer's patients and for dementia. Is that just different than the TheraLumen in that it's for your head versus the TheraLumen being like a full body to target things like Lyme?
Yeah, so the way the Spectrum Mini works is like the light applicator pad it's like a big rectangle, and it's padded so you can lay on it and have it behind your head, and the light penetrates the skull and stimulates the optic nerve that way. In contrast, the Vilite Gamma has the lights, placed strategically around the skull, and then I believe, like if it's like their other ones, it also has a intranasal LED.
Yeah, the nose probe, the nostril probe.
Yeah, the nostril probe. I don't have the Gamma. I have their Neuro. I have a number of their other ones, and I love them. One of my clients who's professionally, he's the number one ranked, or the champion, the Muay Thai champion on the East Coast. He has the Gamma and loves it as well. How many 40 hertz lights do you need, right?
So did you use that when you had Lyme?
I used the Theralumen, and I still use it strategically to clean the blood. I'm a big advocate of cycling parasite cleanses, reintegrating things like Cemento and cat's claw, and some of the antivirals that we know can impact Epstein Barr, which is one of the drivers of chronic fatigue. So I'll keep a lot of these things, ozone, as a regular part of my rotation, to keep the blood clean. And especially if I start feeling anything that is like a deviation from me being at the top of my game.
Is that in your book? Like, do you have like a Lyme protocol in your book?
I don't. A ton of people have asked about it. And like a huge challenge with it is the amount of personalization that's required. I think in the near future, I'm working on something that I've simplified a lot of the stuff that's in the book and everything that we've done in the past 2 years now since I started writing the book. And I think that there are ways that we can reach a lot more people, and it wouldn't require the one-on-one personalization with me. It's a project on the back burner right now, but that will pertain to Lyme and include a lot of the things that we're talking about, and then some. Okay,
got it. Now, I also, before I asked you a little bit about strength training, because you're pretty freaking jacked, man. So I want to hear about some of the things that you do for that. This whole deal with EMF, to close the loop on that, what's the best way for people to test? Like if they were going to test their home for EMF, do you have a preferred method?
100% get a consultant, get a building biologist. There's a website that we'll put in the show notes. I'll get it over to you, where you can find an EMF consultant in your area. Have them come in and do it like before we even had a consultation done on any place that we were thinking about moving. I brought my Coronet tri-mode meter in there. I looked at all three types of fields, and there were a few different properties that I thought were good. And then the consultant came in and caught something that I didn't even realize, like stuff that I wouldn't think about, like the home's grounding system. How well is the home designed to actually release the voltage and charge of our body from, it just us interacting with electronics, right? If the grounding system on your home is poor, your body retains that voltage where it continues to have negative biological effects.
Yeah, I actually, I think I know the list you're talking about. Is it the one on Electric Sense?
I'm not familiar with that one. Actually, Nick Pino, who wrote the non-tinfoil guide to EMS, gave me a list. And yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, send that over to me, and I'll send you the list that I have. I'm actually doing, I live out in the middle of the forest. Everything's hardwired Ethernet cable, very like a parabolic microwave antenna for the Wi-Fi that just concentrates the signal to one tiny spot on the house, and no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi. Very few like high energy appliances. We're powered by solar, et cetera. But I'm still having a consultant come in, at the time of this recording, in about 2 months, to just do a walkthrough, just because I'm curious. I just out of sheer curiosity, I've walked through the house with one of these tri-field meters, and I've found very, very, very low levels everywhere. But I like you, just because not only do I want to help to educate people about areas, if I find areas that are producing really notoriously high levels of EMF that I wasn't otherwise aware of, I want to know about it, but I also want to be able to tell other people about it. So yeah, I'm hiring a consultant in a few months to come up to my place. So
you're a wise man.
Hey, I want to interrupt today's show to tell you about Woof. Can't tell you about BarkBox without barking like a dog. BarkBox. What they do is they paw pick the best all-natural treats and really cool, innovative toys to match your dog's unique needs, including like if your dog has allergies or they're a heavy chewer. And they make all their products, they test them on animals. 100% of their products are tested on their own animals. And then they theme these monthly boxes like Country Fair and Bark Ball and Pooh York City, Brooklyn Hipster, etc. And they send these amazing new unique toys to my dog. I came home today from speaking in Minneapolis, and my dog was in the living room chewing on some toy I'd never seen before. And I have this peace of mind that he just gets entertained with new toys every single month when the BarkBox box shows up. Say that 10 times fast. So they ship it straight to your front door. And you get a free month of this amazing BarkBox. And if your dog doesn't like something in the box, they'll send you something your dog does love for free because they're all about dog happiness. You know that free month I mentioned? Here's how you get it. You visit barkbox.com/Ben, BARK box.com/Ben. And when you subscribe to a 6-month plan or a 12-month plan for your pooch, you get a free extra month. barkbox.com/Ben. This podcast is also brought to you by Health Gains, a concierge age management practice owned by Dr. Richard Gaines himself. Dr. Richard Gaines is my own anti-aging doc. He specializes in evidence-based, meaning he doesn't mess you up. He actually tests you along the way and makes sure everything works. Hormone replacement therapy, anti-aging, integrative wellness programs. He does even like sexual wellness treatments like the acoustic sound wave therapy for women and men. Turns you into a champ in the bedroom. Or if you have like erectile dysfunction, he can fix that. Really, really great guy. And he's even written several books on men's health issues. The guy knows what he's talking about. Harvard trained, a pioneer in the use of hormone replacement therapy. You want to hook up with this cat? Here's how. And here's how to get $250 off of that hookup. Text the word GAIN to 313131. The word GAIN to 313131. And when you do that, you will get 250 buckaroos off of any of their treatments at their Aventura, Florida location. Just text the word GAIN to 3131. You're welcome. And now back to today's show. Like I mentioned, I'm curious what you do for fitness, like what your specifically like your strength training routine or your muscle routine looks like. You're a pretty big guy. You're strong. You keep yourself in pretty good shape. You're not one of these skinny, weak biohackers that is easy to kill. Tell me what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, my background was very much bodybuilding focused as I came up. You know, I read Muscle and Fitness and Men's Health and all of those type of magazines. And even though I played soccer, I wanted to put on size and have muscle at a young age. I played defense. I was never really like the fastest guy, but if I could, knock the skinny forwards off the ball, I knew that kind of leveled the playing field. So I was not much bigger, but around this same size, maybe a little bit bigger in college, and then the years after, before I kind of modified my training program. And what I started seeing, especially as my health deteriorated, was I was like, as I stopped and really paid attention to my training, which was it was compound lifts. It was your bench press, your barbell bench press, your barbell squat, your barbell deadlift, overhead press, pull-ups, things like that. I started realizing that once I got over 185, 225 pounds for reps, there was really diminishing returns. And it actually made me more susceptible to injuries. Now, whether that was related to the underlying inflammation from Lyme or these other things we're talking about, I'm not sure. But I also noticed that when I stopped neglecting my cardio, which is maybe a product of like soccer training, I always put off any type of running until like 2 weeks before the season. And then I would just kill myself and vomit all over the place every training session.
Right.
So that I was,
you're the complete opposite of me, who embraces cardio, but tends to eschew strength training, or at least did for a long time until I really got my head wrapped around the benefits of strength training.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a tendency to do what we're good at, right? It feels good. We get our ego stroked, and people that are natural lifters have a tendency to lift more weights, and people that are good at cardio have a tendency to gravitate towards that. But I found that when all I could do was yoga and really gentle cardio, my brain started coming back online, and I started feeling better. I started noticing my mood coming back, and things that had disappeared for years, including my sex drive, all started coming back when I, as you say, built a bigger aerobic engine. So today I do the strength training in, like before you and I jumped on, I was outside. I'll do when I'm doing work, I'll work for 25 minutes and I'll take a 5-minute break. And during that 5-minute break, I'll do pull-ups or I'll do push-ups, or, I'll jump on the rebounder and, take my pants down and get sun there for the testosterone boosting benefit.
You jump on the rebounder with your pants down?
Indeed I do.
Isn't that uncomfortable, the flopping around?
It was a little bit, but you get used to it pretty fast. It actually.
Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it.
Strength training, I do. I do basically what I need to maintain strength and keep muscle mass, but I'm not trying to get any bigger. I find that keeping the cardio, keeping the hot yoga, keeping the outdoor shirtless jogging as the majority of my program, it works better for me with my goals right now.
What about, like in my office, I have all these fringe tools laying around. Like I have behind me, this Live O2 unit that allows for hypoxic and hyperoxic training while I'm on my bicycle next to it. And I've got like a power platform, vibration platform out in the living room. And I have a new one that just arrived today. It's an X3 bar, some kind of little bar for isometric training, and I've worked out on the ARX Fit machine, which kind of forces you into an eccentric contraction with like 600 pounds of pressure. There's all these machines out there, and as a guy who's of course written a book called Biohacking Secrets, I'm curious if you have specific tools or like little biohacks that you've used that kind of go outside the scope of walking in the sunshine and lifting a barbell as practical and easily accessible as those things are. I'm curious if you have any other fringe methods.
Yeah, I've heard great things about the ARX machine. I haven't personally used it. I've turned our garage into a gym where I have, what are they called? They're like those adjustable weights, power blocks that go up to 70 pounds. So I have dumbbells up to 70 pounds. I'll use those for strength training. I have a bunch of the equipment from the guys over at Fitwood. I'm sure you're familiar with them. They make great, like at-home workout equipment that actually looks good. So your wife or girlfriend isn't going to take it and hide it in the closet.
I have $2,000 worth of Fitwood equipment out in my garage that we just gave away on the Ben Greenfield Facebook page.
Nice.
As a giveaway. So yeah, it's beautiful fitness gear.
It's phenomenal. Someone's lucky.
I only gave it away because I already have a bunch of extra.
Yeah, nice. I have a Concept 2 row machine. I love doing, at Biohacking Week, we'll do the 500-meter row challenge where you get on there and see at like level 10 difficulty how fast you could row 500 meters. And it's like the hardest, minute and 20 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes of your life. And besides that, I love whole body vibration machines. I was a member at a gym in Chicago that had the Power Plate Pro. I used to work that into my weekly routine. I haven't since I moved to Florida. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really like out there. I haven't seen anything that to me was better than old school.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes you just got to put in hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. Although I did, for those of you listening in, you should listen to my podcast with the guy who runs the IHMC, Ken Ford. I just interviewed him where he talks about an exoskeleton they're developing that you wear that literally allows you to target via an extreme isometric or eccentric contraction any body part. And it's literally like an Iron Man suit that you wear. That was originally developed for like astronauts, but that they're now trying to make palatable for the general population. So listen to that one with Ken Ford. I'll put a link to that one in the show notes if you guys want to hear about a really cool little cutting edge thing that of course makes you look far sillier than lifting a kettlebell, but hey, it's an option. So of course, hand in hand with training would go recovery and sleep. And I noticed in the book you talk about what you call a tested, proven, and retested sleep strategy implemented by the Navy SEALs that could increase cognitive function and physical performance. So I'm curious in terms of like sleep hacking, what one of the strategies that you talk about in your book is that you find flies under the radar. That's something that's a real dial mover for you.
Yeah. So the three things that really would make a big difference in anyone that's struggling with sleep: unplugging the Wi-Fi or going, like you and I have done, and getting the getting the Ethernet hardwired in. Cold plunges, specifically ice baths, are phenomenal. We have the clear light infrared sauna in the garage that you actually.
What do you mean? You do cold plunges and ice baths before bed or earlier in the day?
We'll do it in the afternoon or evening. So we'll do like half an hour in the sauna, and then we'll do a 5-minute ice bath. Then we'll do another half an hour in the sauna, and then we'll do another 5-minute ice bath. And my sleep scores on the Oura Ring, and especially in deep sleep, are always 2 to 3x what they are without the ice baths involved. And I saw the same thing in Chicago.
Do you finish with the ice bath, or do you find, because I find that I'm kind of cold and I like to almost finish with a lukewarm shower. Maybe it's because I'm so lean. I almost feel like I'm shivering before bed, and then I get hungry and tend to eat copious amounts of food when I'm shivering. So do you finish with the sauna? Do you finish with the shower, or how do you do it?
If I'm feeling high in the willpower and discipline category, then I'll end on cold and ride it out and kind of force my body to heat itself back up. If it's by feel, right? I don't just do it because I think that has our little mitochondria working harder. If I feel like garbage or like I need to get in a lukewarm shower, then I'll do that. But most of the time I end on cold and kind of let my body do its thing. If it needs a little boost, maybe I'll throw on some sweats.
So you mitigate EMF. You like to do the hot cold thing later on in the day. And what would be a third strategy to use, especially for deep sleep? If you could name one more.
I've seen some pretty profound benefits using the earthing sheet with a ground stake, not plugging it into the wall. That was a mistake that I did back in the Chicago high rise due to lack of other options. But in integrating like an earthing half sheet that connects to a cable, and you plug you put a spike down into the ground. I've seen some pretty substantial improvements in sleep from that, as have a number of clients.
And what's that called?
So the company is called Earthing, and it's called an earthing half sheet. So it's basically like about the size of half of a king bed, maybe a little bit less. And you lay on top of it, and if you sleep limited clothing, it has you. It connects you with the Earth's field.
Okay, so you could probably just find that on Amazon, I would imagine.
Yeah, they've got them on Amazon. If you Amazon search earthing half sheet, it'll come up, and they have a number of other ones.
And how is that different than like a grounding mat?
So a lot of the grounding mats, I think I've seen mixed results with myself and other people. Plugging them into the walls, like a lot of people, that's what the company recommends if you don't have the ability to plug it into the ground. And I've seen that actually cause some unwanted effects like agitation and irritability and even like heart palpitations. So the benefit of plugging it into the earth is you don't expose yourself to some of those other things. If it's a grounding mat and you have your mat plugged into the ground, then it's similar. You're just on it for 8 hours.
What about when you're traveling? Do you take this with you when you travel, or do you have something else that you'll use when you're traveling?
I don't, but I probably will. I probably will in the future. When I travel, I make sure I land. I get plenty of molecular hydrogen with me to mitigate some of the high EMFs on the plane. I land and I get a workout in right away. I'll usually 40 to 60 minute jog outside shirtless, get a real good sweat. And then I'll earth. Ideally, like I'll get in a lake or a stream or whatever body of water. If the ocean's around there, great. But if I just need to get barefoot in the grass, I'll do that.
Got it. What about like portable PEMF devices that kind of simulate the Earth's frequency? Like I'll travel sometimes with a Delta sleeper that you put on your collarbone, or there's another one called the Earth Pulse that I'll put underneath my mattress. Do you travel with anything like that, or have any other special travel hacks that you use for anything from jet lag to better recovery when you're traveling?
Yeah, for a while I was doing everything. I was using the Delta sleeper. I still bring the Delta sleeper with me on a good amount of trips. The Earth Pulse is a little bit more cumbersome to travel with and set up. And I use the human charger if I'm going to be covering a lot of distance and changing multiple time zones. I'll use the human charger. But it's usually like the simple stuff, like the exercise and the earthing, getting a real good sweat that make a big difference for me. And then and I'm pretty regimented with the molecular hydrogen too.
What do you do as far as molecular hydrogen, and why would you use that?
Yeah, there's a couple types. Dr. Patrick Flanagan has one called Mega Hydrate, and then there's a few others. There's tablets called Hydra, and then the other one is Advanced H2. I've used all of them, and I like all of them, honestly. The molecular hydrogen is it's one of the few antioxidants that's able to cross the blood-brain barrier and get into the cells and neutralize some of the high amounts of like intracellular calcium that we're exposed to around EMFs. So that's some of the newer research that Martin Pall has released, where he's seen that EMFs from Wi-Fi and cell phones, a lot of the mechanism that they work through is they cause issues with the voltage gated calcium channels on the surface of our cells. And too much intracellular calcium acts as it's a free radical. It oxidizes the cell. It can drive down mitochondrial function and actually jack up the surface of the cell as well. So you're not getting proper toxin and nutrient exchange. And the molecular hydrogen mitigates some of those effects.
Interesting. Would that be very similar to like these molecular hydrogen tablets that you can just like buy on Amazon again, for example, to like dissolve in water?
I would imagine, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen much of a difference between Patrick Flanagan's Mega Hydrate, the Hydra molecular hydrogen, and the other one who I think the name is Advanced H2, but I haven't seen much of a difference between them. They all work well. We have my dad using them. My girlfriend uses them occasionally. Anytime that you're exposed to a lot of free radical production that would be beyond what's beneficial, it can be warranted to take some of those.
Now, do you take other supplements that you consider to be real game changers that not a lot of people know about?
Yeah, I take a ton.
It's kind of funny because a lot of the people I talk to who are very into longevity, there's very few of them that follow that pathway of saying, oh, ancient man didn't take supplements, which isn't true. Ancient man used essential oils and mortar and pestle and tinctures and all manner of different supplements and roots and extractions. But that's a rabbit hole. What I'm getting at is that a lot of people who are planning on living a long time, they're swallowing like 60, 70 pills a day when I talk to some of these people and using, different oils and tinctures and blends and topicals. So I don't find that shocking or surprising that you say you take a lot. What would be the biggies?
Yeah, a lot of the big ones are the ones that revolve around energy production. So your D-ribose, your NAD plus, NADH lozenges. I have some MTHFR things going on where I need higher amounts of B vitamins. So I'll take a product called Thorn Methylguard Plus. I'll take a bioactive B12, like either methylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin or adenosylcobalamin sublingually, along with some sublingual methylfolate and tons of magnesium, either magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate. I take a good amount of DHA, and I love a product by Nordic Naturals called 1000. I take 4 of those every day. Notice just mood and cognition and everything is much better when I've got that in the routine. Probiotics occasionally. Those are some of the big ones. I mean, there's probably a small handful of people who take more supplements than I do. And it's like Ray Kurzweil and Suzanne Summers and some of them.
What do you do about all the encapsulation? Like it's a lot of capsules and a lot of fillers inside of the capsules. Does that ever worry you?
Yeah, I'm pretty particular about the ones that I use and do a good amount of due diligence on the front end, looking at what else is in there, working with companies that that are very committed to high quality standards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, doing the homework on supplements is pretty important. I mean, I heard you mention that you take like the Thorn form of methylation support. Like that's a perfect example. If I've gone and toured their facilities, and a lot of manufacturers of nutritional supplements will add like lubricants to help the powders flow through the manufacturing equipment faster. And one of the most common lubricants is magnesium stearate. And that actually reduces the absorption rate in many cases of the nutrients that are in what you're actually taking. And so, for example, they don't use any magnesium stearate, and it means it takes a lot longer for them to manufacture any given batch of a product. But by avoiding that, that's one less like competition-based filler that's in the actual supplement. So I agree. Like you have to choose like some of these brands that aren't necessarily like the first and cheapest thing that pop up on Amazon or that are in the bargain bin at the super supplement store.
Absolutely, man. It's I think a lot of people are like selling themselves short by doing the supplement of the month club, or trying 10 different things at a time without really being able to isolate which ones are providing the benefits, or maybe making them not feel amazing. And it's hard to trust a lot of the reviews on Amazon and some of these websites now with some of the options available for purchasing them and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So in addition to supplements, obviously diet is a big component of fueling your body. And I'm just curious what you've found to be a big win from a dietary standpoint, or whether you make a particular dietary recommendation in your book. And also, before I forget, do you lay out like some of these supplement protocols that you do in your book as well?
Yeah, in the book, I lay out a number of, there are hundreds of supplements that are talked about, but I them based on what the individual is trying to achieve, right? And it's okay for someone to hear vitamin D is good for me and then go take vitamin D. But a lot of what we end up taking, knowing that our time and our energy and our financial resources are limited, should depend on our goals and our health status. So in the book, we're walking people through, okay, here are the foundational elements that help make a healthy human being: your nutrition, your movement, stress management, sleep, supplements, hydration, light, mindset, and habits. But then there's troubleshooting. Do you have a hidden infection? Are you dealing with parasites or Epstein Barr or Lyme or any of the other candida, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? Are you dealing with mitochondrial dysfunction? Are there other things that should be addressed? And then giving them specific supplements based on what they may be dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. What about from a dietary standpoint?
From a dietary standpoint, I'm now more, I'm about 80% plants. A lot of those plants are vegetables, but I do fruit, predominantly organic berries, but I get into other stuff when I've been more physically active. So 80% plants and healthy fats. And then the other 20% is your protein, but the protein is skewed heavily towards wild caught seafood. 18 oysters a week. That's a lot of times our meal out. Fresh wild caught fish, making sure that we're doing the regular detoxification stuff.
Why are you such a big fan of oysters?
You get the DHA, and it's not denatured, which can happen when you start cooking the fish. So you get higher amounts of bioavailable DHEA, and then you also get some of the things like zinc and magnesium that we know help us help our male hormones do what they're supposed to do and keep the sex drive high. So that's one of the reasons that I'm a big fan of them.
And you mentioned coffee enemas as well.
Yeah, I was introduced to a girl in 2013 who in 2007, she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer. Her name was Catalee. And my friend was like, he's like, you got to meet this girl. The stuff she does is insane. And she was telling me about the Gershon protocol, which is used by a lot of people dealing with cancer. And it had saved her life. She was supposed to be dead in a few months. It's now 17. She has 2 kids. She was never supposed to be able to have kids. And one of the things that she was doing was coffee enemas. And, she told me a little bit about the science and how it stimulates liver function and, through the hepatic portal vein, and you get this boost in glutathione. And I'm like, it's interesting. I started researching, and it checked out. And I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? There were tons of people talking about how it had changed their life. So in 2013, I did my first coffee enema and felt actually, the truth be told, the first one was disaster. I had butt coffee all over my bathroom, but after I got the hang of it, I felt almost euphoric, and just tons of energy and mood uplifted, things that in 2013 I was still struggling for, to have as a consistent part of my life. And within 2 or 3 weeks, I'd had about 10 pounds of stubborn fat around my midsection. That was it wasn't anything serious. People probably wouldn't have even noticed if I didn't take my shirt off, but it just went away. And it was stuff that I couldn't get to go away from dietary changes and exercise. I started detoxing better with the coffee enemas, And in a short period of time, the fat just fell off.
Yeah, and for people who are nervous about doing a coffee enema or sticking a tube up your butt, there's a lot of like suppositories these days that can achieve similar effect. Like for example, I in many cases don't have the time with my travel and everything to do something like a coffee enema to get all those benefits that you just talked about. But there's one called that I've been using lately called Glitamins, right? And it's just a very simple suppository, same thing, a little bit of a detoxification support, and you put it into your bootay and you hold it for, honestly, like I'll put it in before bed at night. And it's just kind of detoxes me while I'm asleep, and you get up in the morning and whenever you go to the bathroom, whatever's left in there comes out. But, that's a perfect solution if you're not a big fan of a full-on coffee enema. And you can get I don't think you can find that one on Amazon, but it's called a Glitamins suppository. If you were to just do a Google search for it, they're all the same, and you could buy it from any number of different supplement websites, I believe. I'll try and put a link for you guys in the show notes. It's not cheap. It's close to $100 for a little box of them, but you save a lot of time. So yeah, there are solutions besides just doing the full-on tube up the butt and generating it. What'd you call it, Anthony? Poop coffee?
Yeah, the butt coffee.
Butt coffee.
That's cool. Did you notice any difference in doing the Glitamins, or are you detoxing so regularly that it wasn't really perceptible?
You feel, in my case, I feel like I have better bowel movements, and you feel a little bit more clean when you use them. I'll just use it like once every 3 or 4 days or so. So
nice. That's cool, man. I gotta check it out.
Yeah. I'm curious, in the time that we have left, what are some of the bigger things that you're doing in terms of, especially because the name of your book is Biohacking Secrets or biohacks, or techniques and strategies that you're using that you think more people should know about?
Yeah. I moved to Florida to make sure that sunlight was a part of every day. And that was one of the things that I realized time and time again, like really moved the needle for me. Mood boosts, improved cognition and mental clarity, and energy. So I was like, it's too hard to get the sun in the wintertime in Chicago. And I wasn't getting the benefits using, tanning beds and those sorts of things. So we picked up and moved to Florida. That's been huge for us. Cleaning up our environment for EMFs. Like, I'm still on tech a lot of the day, but I'm just doing it smarter than I was in the past. That's made a huge difference. The PEMF machine, the OndaMed, has helped a lot. The earthing sheets, the clear light, the clear light infrared sauna, which you introduced me to, has been huge. I mean, we brought a sauna to Florida. That shows how much we love that thing. So thank you for pointing me to that. I think you recommended that in Helsinki.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in mine all the time. Do you use any like niacin or flushing type of compounds before you get into the sauna?
Yeah, so I take niacin every day, usually between 1,000 and 2,000 milligrams of the full flush. I haven't, a few times in the past, I've done it before the sauna, and repeatedly, I have a tendency to do things that I would recommend clients not do. So like not slowly ramping up my dosage. I would go from like 2,000 milligrams I took 4,000 milligrams right before a sauna, and then was in there for 60 minutes. And like, I had a little bit of a die-off reaction afterwards. I felt I had a headache for 2 or 3 hours afterwards. So now I just kind of keep the niacin as a daily thing, and I jump in the sauna. I have something called the Lightworks by Soda that uses the roughly 660 nanometer red light, and it combines that with frequencies like the Schumann and Tesla and General Harmonics.
What's
frequencies. It called? It's by a company called Soda. That's really, this company is amazing. I get zero benefit from recommending their stuff, but it's so good. I talk about it all the time. So the company is Soda, SOTA, and they developed something called a Lightworks, which it has a panel that you hold. It's like a paddle, and it has a circular applicator. And on one side you have infrared. On the other side you have straight red, the 660. Mm-hmm. And they combine that with some of the beneficial frequencies, and it runs through about 8 to 10 of these frequencies when you turn it on. So I'll take that into the sauna with me and use that on different parts of the body to accelerate healing and recovery. Or if you just want to put it on your forehead to fight fight premature aging, it's beneficial there too. Yeah, so that's some of the ways that I use that. And they also make something called a silver pulsar that allows you to make your own colloidal silver at home with distilled water.
And what would you do with colloidal silver?
Colloidal silver, with the homemade stuff, when I was dealing with Lyme and some of these other infections, I would drink it. I worked my way. I slowly built up to about 2 cups a day. And I would use it. It has one setting that allows you to make the colloidal silver. It can be used as a deodorant, or it has natural antibacterial properties, but it can also be safely ingested, especially if you go slow to minimize any die-off reaction. And then on the other end, it has an applicator that uses a low-level electric current that you apply to the wrist, the radial and the ulnar arteries. And that low-level current also kills pathogens in the blood and helps your body get rid of viruses and bacteria and fungi and molds and parasites. And anyone listening would want to work up slowly with that too. They have a protocol where you start at like just a half an hour every other day, and then you gradually work up to where you're wearing the thing as much as you can during the day. But that's been helpful for a lot of clients and was helpful for me too, although it's a little bit uncomfortable to wear, I'll admit.
You've talked about a lot of stuff that I think people would question as being practical in their day-to-day busy lives as, parents, people who are working, all day long and may not have the ability to be able to stop and use all of these different things that you've discussed. I'm curious if you could, just from a practical standpoint, walk me through what one of your days looks like as far as how you structure implementing some of these techniques into your own life.
Yeah, for sure. At any time I'm working with 50 to 100 clients one-on-one. So giving people ways to apply the stuff practically is what I do. I'd make sure to. There's also a lot of people that just, like you and I, love to nerd out on this stuff and like be exposed to different things. So I'm also like diarrhea of the mouth, spewing out a bunch of things that may be helpful. And I think, some people's ears may have perked up because a lot of folks now know someone in their life who's dealt with Lyme. So I wanted to share some of those things. But in terms of practical application, today, here's what we did today. Alarm went off at 6:30. Woke up, went and had a good amount of fresh water. We've got Voss water or Penta water or Mountain Valley Spring water. All of those are brands that we regularly stock in the house. I also have a Kangen water machine that adds hydrogen to the water for those same antioxidant benefits we mentioned earlier. They talk about the changing the pH. I'm not convinced that that's a huge part of the benefit, but I drink that throughout the day too, generally away from meals. I'll take my morning supplements. I've got a journal that's called the Productive Action Journal that a guy, Dave Rule, put together. If anyone wanted to check that out, it's at efffic.co. I've no affiliation with the company, but it's like you basically, from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m., everything that you're going to be doing, what's your one productive action of the day, the thing that's really going to make a difference in your business or your life. And then you have your other tasks, and you've got an idea box. It's got a little thing for gratitude. I'll fill that out, make sure, I've got a handle on what important appointments I'm going to be doing. So I was like, okay, I'm on with Ben at 2:30. We got to a 7:15 hot yoga class for 90 minutes of hot yoga and meditation. Afterwards, grabbed an iced Americano at one of the places in Delray that has good organic coffee, and came home, showered, packed my bags, and we headed to a cafe and did about 3 or 4 hours of work on a webinar that I'm going to be doing to introduce people to our membership site. And then I came back here, had a shake. So I'd fasted until about 2 p.m., had a nice shake, and then hopped on with you. And that's the day so far.
Very cool. I know that you spell out a ton of this stuff in your book, Biohacking Secrets. And I think, based on what I understand from you, that we're just giving that book for free to everybody listening in. And you do pay, just so people know, you pay shipping. You can pay handling, and that's it. I think that's pretty incidental. But you can grab Anthony's big old Biohacking Secrets book. It's called The Biohacker's Guide to Upgraded Energy and Focus, right, Anthony?
Yeah, Biohacker's Guide to Upgraded Energy and Focus.
Okay, cool. So we'll link to that one in the show notes over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/biohacking secrets. And then if people have questions about some of the things you've just talked about, Anthony, if they leave them in the show notes in the comment section, do you think I could fire you over a few of the comments or thoughts people have if they have questions or follow-ups about some of this stuff?
Absolutely, man. That'd be fun.
Okay, cool. So if you have questions for Anthony, you can go to bengreenfieldfitness.com/biohacking secrets and leave any of your follow-up questions there. And then you can also grab the book, the free book that Anthony wrote that's just chock full of a ton more ideas. That'll also be over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/biohacking secrets. So that being said, Anthony, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing us all of your, or at least some of your secrets. And you can come back to Finland again at some point, dude? Do this conference with me?
I would love to, man. Ben, this has been a huge pleasure. I'd love to hang out and do some stuff in person next time.
I'll hold you to it. All right, folks. Well, until next time, I'm Ben Greenfield along with Anthony DiClementi signing out from bengreenfieldfitness.com. Have an amazing week.
You've been listening to the Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast. Go to bengreenfieldfitness.com for even more cutting-edge fitness and performance advice.